Welcome to the Lizard Hour.
Lizard Hour. It's the reptile year.
Welcome to the zone where we discuss what them dragons are doing.
Hi, don't panic, it's just me, Future Glidus, here to tell you what's happening with this week's Dragon Time. As usual, the full thing is up on Nebula. This week's is 3.5 hours long. For some reason. What's different this time though is because of a few setbacks, I've pulled a King Solomon and just chopped the whole thing in half. So you're gonna get roughly the first half of the conversation here and the rest of it is over on Nebula. I will keep our conclusion in so the video has a conclusion. So you will hear us talk about basically every scene, but the in-depth conversation in the second half, that's on Nebula. Dragon Time is brought to you by Nebula, by the way, so thanks Nebula. As you probably know, Nebula is an independent streaming platform owned by the creators. So it means we don't have to deal with all of that YouTube nonsense. You know, we can get more funky and experimental with our stuff, like doing a day-long video about Jon Snow. Why did we do that? There's also our House of the Dragon Season 1 discussions, which is sort of like a proto-Dragon Time. That's up there as well. In total, Swifty and I have almost an entire long weekend's worth of Dragon talk up on Nebula. It really is a great way to support creators, and if you use the link nebula.tv/Glidus, you can get 40% off an annual subscription at only $2.50 a month, which is just crazy. Thank you, Nebula, and thank you for watching Dragon Time. What are them dragons doing today?
What are they up to? What antics?
What do they know? Let's find out.
What is afoot? Hey, how many feet does a dragon have, Glidus?
Sources vary.
Do Westerosi dragons have little fingers on the end of their wing ends at all?
Because of how wings developed from the forelimbs, their fingers are like claws on the end of their wings. Do we see that in dragons? Or are their wings like more weird?
So wings are really just big hands.
Big flappy hands.
Or maybe hands are just small wings. We're doing Dragon Talk each week to discuss each episode of House of the Dragon Season 2. We will not spoil future episodes in these chats, and we will have a yeehaw good time. Do you co-sign that, Glidus?
Co-signed.
Co-signed.
I second that motion.
You co-sign it? I tan.
Wow, I arctan it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Trig math. What happened this episode?
A wingful of things happened this episode.
Addam has a dragon, or a dragon has Addam.
Yeah.
Aemond fires his mother.
Not too many people can say they've done that.
No, that's a rare move, I would say. Stefan Darklin became a pile of ash.
Yeah, and the dude next to him just outed. He was like, nah, not dealing with this.
Yeah, there's actually some information that showrunner Ryan Condal was talking about the special importance of that dragon glass dagger. On his own podcast yonks ago, he was saying that each Dragonkeeper ceremonially makes their own dragon glass blade.
No way.
Like a Jedi making their lightsaber.
Oh, come on, Ryan.
And Ryan hinted there's a specific reason why they carry that dragon glass dagger, so
right.
Stay tuned.
Whoa. So, yeah, as I suspected, they keep them there specifically to kill themselves if they get toasted.
Yeah.
Because death by dragonfire seems really horrendous. Just
that
terrible.
Is so metal. Oh my God. They're kind of like borderline a death cult.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if death by fire is that much of an occupational hazard that they carry don't you think they should just carry a fire extinguisher instead of a suicide blade?
I don't know if they'd figured that one out yet.
Jason Lannister arrived.
He's such a twit.
He is a twit.
It's so fun.
It's delightful. I love how like most of the characters in this show undergo like pretty transformational arcs, whereas Jason just pig-headedly, consistently continues to be exactly the same arrogant douche that he's been since episode 1.
We hope he never changes.
Never change, Jason. There's a propaganda campaign by Diana and Sylvie and Ulf. That was a group of characters I was not expecting to share a scene.
Yeah, it was like they're suddenly all in the same bar, and I'm like, God, it's a crossover episode of all these little storylines we've been following throughout the season.
Yeah, right? It's one of those, you guys all know each other situations. Rhaenyra slapped Bartimus, the Crab Lord.
What did he ever do?
He was a bit annoying, Glidus.
He was also being a twit.
He was a bit annoying.
He really did lay it down with the "I told you so."
That's what he got.
Well, Rhaenyra is really embracing a masculine role in this episode.
Yeah, picking up swords and
Kissing ladies.
macking ladies.
And then just like angrily going off on a dragon at the end of it.
Yeah, she's taking action.
Branching out to new genders.
Yeah.
Emma Darcy has always said that Rhaenyra is someone at odds with her gender, so here we go.
They've talked in interviews about like young Rhaenyra and Alicent having like a romantic component to their relationship. So the idea of Rhaenyra being attracted to women is not an entirely new idea.
There are so many people who are going to be furious that Rhaenyra is finally kissing girls and it's not Alicent. The only reason we watch this show.
That's what we're all waiting for. It's not about the dragons for me.
For me, it's about updates to the Tapestry.
Yeah, well, we certainly got some Tapestry updates.
Do you think Helena's finally had some free time? That's what this is about?
Right, yeah, Helena is definitely making this tapestry, isn't she?
I don't know.
I think, I mean, who else have we seen making tapestry and embroidery-like things?
No one actively, I guess.
So the tapestry has been updated to show a man with a sword victorious over Sunfire and Meleys. Is that meant to be Aegon?
Yeah, like as the public perception of what happened at Rook's Rest, how Aegon slew Meleys.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, it's odd to see Sunfire.
He's got long hair, so I think it is supposed to be Aemond.
I don't see an
I said
patch.
Aemond like you do. What's become of me?
How do you say it?
It's Aemond.
Aemond.
The way they say it in the show.
I prefer to say it like a Digimon. I have seen
Damon, go!
I choose you. I do pronounce everything wrong, but in my defense, I'm not speaking the same language as the people on this show, I think. Yeah, I don't think it looks particularly like Aegon or Aemond.
Generic Valyrian man.
He seems to have a very furry face. Like, I'm very puzzled. Like, the level of detail is a bit confusing.
It's Rickard Thorne's beard.
It also looks like there's this line here, which is like, is that a scorpion bolt in Meleys' neck?
Yeah, that's how they got her, didn't you see?
Yeah, and but Vhagar is above, indicating that like Vhagar was involved. Although Vhagar's looking teensy tiny, which I find adorable.
She's off in the distance. The embroiderers have figured out perspective. It's a breakthrough.
There's no stopping them now. They're gonna get isometric in the next one. So there's black stuff coming off Meleys' head.
Oily black stone.
Whoa, squishes confirmed.
Great Empire of the Dawn.
There's also this
Dragon blood.
This like bridge-like horizontal
like a
structure.
rope ladder.
What is that? Is that the gates being closed?
Yeah, very well could be.
I think it could be like a decorative element. Like if we look like see the borders that are around some of the other tapestry images.
God, it's so cool.
Like maybe it's purely a decorative element. I think it's odd that it's so prominent, this horizontal thing.
I'm happy thinking that it's the gates for now.
Yeah. But yeah, nice to see the tapestry being updated, and I think, I mean, is that a crown on the head? Yeah, I don't know for certain whether that's meant to be Aegon or Aemond, but I like the idea that it's Aegon because historical memory is not totally accurate about what really happened at Rook's Rest.
Yeah. And we saw Kristen making the narrative that Aegon did it.
Yeah. The black stuff advancing is really interesting to me. Changing from blood advancing to black stuff advancing.
What do you think it means? Is it now written death rather than just blood?
Yeah. Which, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, blood can be life. Like, blood can come from childbirth.
Whereas this representation of death is just destruction, downfall.
Yeah, I think the black is like a worse kind of death than blood. I suppose the other thing it could be is ink. You know, Maester's ink, letters, communication, history. Like, I think black ink could mean something here.
Why is ink coming out of the dragon's neck?
Well, Meleys was the most literate of the dragons, you see. Yeah, wrote a lot of short fiction.
I don't know.
On
Aegon
Wattpad.
taught Sunfire how to understand the common tongue.
That's true. So yeah, I guess dragons are pretty good. I mean, what I suspect is that you could talk in Japanese to a dragon and it would still understand because it's actually about the dragon bond psychic link rather than... I mean, like Aemond said Dracarys.
Aemond would speak Japanese to Vhagar, obviously, because he's an anime villain, but Vhagar's too old to learn a new language.
Yeah, no, that's true.
She's too stuck in her ways.
As soon as I heard the Dragonkeepers singing in Valyrian this episode, I was like, where is David Peterson when you need him? to translate.
I'm
the
pretty sure
singing.
it's the same song that Damon sings to Vermithor in episode 10.
Oh, yeah.
It's got the same melody at least. It might be new verses. I wasn't listening for the lyrics.
When are you going to do your remix of that song?
Big things coming.
Yeah, the opening scene of this episode is the Lannisters arriving at the Golden Tooth.
I love this, like seeing an update from far away from the world of King's Landing and Dragonstone.
Yeah, I think this was needed because there are times when this show feels like it's just like 5 dudes in the Red Keep and Dragonstone.
You lose the scope of the war. A few updates on the world in a grander sense throughout this episode. We hear that the Reach has gone to war with itself. There's a ruckus in the Reach.
Ruckus in the Reach.
Yeah.
Delton Greyjoy in the Iron Islands.
The Red Kraken.
And Aemond wants Tylan to talk to the Triarchy in the Free Cities. So yeah, there are lots of broader geographical forces at work, which is nice to see.
And there are big things happening in the Riverlands with Grover Tully dying mysteriously.
This has been a very Riverlands heavy season, hasn't it?
We love it. We love a Riverlands heavy story.
Look at the swag that Jason Lannister has. Look, those are the biggest pauldrons I have seen since Warhammer 40k. Look at the size of those shoulder lions. It's outrageous.
They're immense.
Mastodonic, I would go so far as to say.
Pauldrons.
There's also a lion face on the horse's head.
That is so cool.
Like, this is pretty gorgeous. If it was me, I would add a few rubies. I would have ruby eyes on the lions.
Not gold.
No, because you want the rubies to pop.
Contrast.
Glidus. You want them to pop.
Right.
Through contrast.
It's called power clashing. You wouldn't get it.
I like how this armor, it looks a lot like Tywin's armor in season 1 in GOT.
Yes.
But a little bit more ostentatious.
Which makes sense for Jason. He's also brought a lion with him.
Yeah, can we talk about the lions? I wanted to be meaning to talk about the lions. Why has he got lions?
He's planning on using them in battle, you see.
I think that might be an actual possibility.
Like, it's either that or just to display how ridiculously wealthy and powerful he is.
Which is equally funny. I mean, there is talk of lords with menageries in this world.
Yeah.
Like the Sea Lord of Bravos has a menagerie. And it's a way of showing off wealth, and that may be what Jason is doing. But I also think it would just be really funny if he rocked up at River Run and just like put some
Get 'em,
wine.
boys.
Yeah. And then if the lions proceeded to eat Jason, that would be great. And
we may see a lion eat this guy's face is all we're saying.
The that possibility enough.
They're
is
really
enough to
keeping
keep me
Jefferson
watching.
Hall through the ringer, aren't they?
I think
he had his neck impaled in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. No, Jason is they're getting their money's worth with Jefferson Hall for sure, and they will continue to, I suspect. But there is that story, like the foundation myth of House Lannister. Isn't there that story where House Casterly had Casterly Rock, but Lan the Clever winkled it out of them and got the castle off the Casterlys? And one of the several stories of how Lan got Casterly Rock is that he snuck lions into Casterly Rock and they ate everybody. Unless
Famously
I'm misremembering.
Inconspicuous animals, lions.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you smuggle a lion, but I think that is one of the stories, unless I'm hallucinating. I think that's one of the stories. So the idea of Lannisters using lions as a weapon against enemy castles, I don't think is unprecedented. So it would be fun. And there's also that bit in the books where Cersei remembers that there are lions in the bowels of Casterly Rock, and she touched one of the lions and Jaime was too scared to.
I mean, fair enough. It's a lion.
There's also something ironic about like the Targaryen sigil as a dragon, and they use their dragons. They fly their dragons.
Right.
Their dragons are like free, whereas these lions, the sigil of the Lannisters, are caged and trapped, and it's a downer.
Yeah? You think the Tyrells are walking around with caged roses?
Well, I mean, what is a
Tully's
flower in a pot if not a caged rose?
It's true.
Yeah.
Real stuff right there.
Tullys eat fish.
Damn.
That's dark. That's wrong.
Well, the people of King's Landing are going to eat a dragon.
And what do you think Alfred Broom does? Sweeping.
True. He uses his sigil.
Outrageous. I enjoy how Lord Lefford says, we have 500 men. And Jason says, well,
I have 1,000 knights and 7,000 other dudes, and they're tired, so you're going to have to feed them. Bye.
Jason instantly turns everything into a dick measuring contest.
Yeah.
He needs to have the most and the biggest. And
you will write to the Prince Regent that he will bring his dragon here.
wait, are those nipples on Jason's breastplate?
No way.
There's certainly abs. I feel like some of those flourishes look almost like nipples on the breastplate.
Nipple-like.
Which is a George Martin favorite line in the books.
Isn't that him throwing shade at that the George Clooney Batman movies?
Is it? Yeah.
It might be more general than that.
Yeah, where exactly did George's breastplate nipple vendetta begin? I don't know. So yeah, Lord Lefford is put upon at having to host the Lannisters. Because Jason declares they will not attack the Riverlands until Aemond Targaryen arrives on the Dragon Vega.
And honestly, Caraxes being in Harrenhal is a pretty good reason to want a dragon for yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to march towards an enemy dragon without having some kind of plan. I mean, something they do in the books is some of these armies have scorpion throwers with them to like shoot at the dragons, which can be a potential defense. I feel like the Lannisters could afford to have some scorpions. But yeah, having a dragon of your own to protect you makes sense. And that is one of the sort of logical, strategic issues throughout this season, is that dragons are the only thing that can fight dragons, but dragons can only be in one place at a time, as the phrase observed last episode. So how do you keep yourself safe from dragons without spreading your dragons too thin? And how much do the Targaryens who control the dragons care about their commanders and their soldiers and their civilians?
Boiled down way of thinking about military logistics in general is like the concept of spreading yourself too thin becomes very understandable when you have 5 dragons and they can only go to do one thing.
Yeah, you got 100 castles, you can protect 5. Pick 5, you know? It's an easy way to create drama in it.
Poor Lord Lefford.
Yeah, Lord Lefford does not have the resources to feed Jason and his men and his lions for an indefinite amount of time. So the far-off look in this guy's face, I think, is fantastic.
Fantastic.
And yeah, the Golden Tooth is one of the more eastern castles in the Westerlands.
Sort of like a gateway to the west.
Yeah. I thought the castle itself looked quite aged in some of the trailers. It looks pretty beaten up, which I suppose it would be.
Yeah,
But-
it's like a great fortress.
Yeah. What are these big stones out the front? Are they just stones? Do they represent something? Or
Those
they
are the
just-
golden teeth.
Are they the teeth? were they a giant's teeth? It's funny that the lions are at the front of the procession.
They're leading the way, man.
Like they pushed the lions out first and then the humans arrived. Interesting choice. But yeah, Lannisters are in town ready to party. Aemond is angry that Jason demands that he come and cover them.
He's pretty livid.
Yeah. It's one of the more like emotional outbursts we've seen from Aemond, honestly.
I mean, how many other times have we seen someone outside the family like command Aemond?
Yeah. It reminds me of when Damon's confronted by the River Lords. And Damon is just kind of nonplussed that, you know, Amos Bracken defies him and these like random River Lords
Like, that's
defy
weird.
him. Like these Targaryens who are used to being coddled in the Red Keep are suddenly like, oh, some people don't care what I think. Some people don't want to just die for me. That's a problem. And I love Tylan's acting here. Like he's looking so sheepish. He's like trying not to make eye contact because his twin is defying Aemond.
It's honestly pretty easy to forget that it's the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah, the performance is fantastic. Tyland and Jason, played by Jefferson Hall. Aemond basically says, nah, you're going to go to the Riverlands regardless, with or without my dragon.
Aemond dismisses half of the council in this scene. He sends Tyland to go to the Triarchy. He sends Kristen off to Harrenhal and he fires Alicent.
Yeah.
The government is now Aemond, Orwyle, Larys, and Jasper.
Well, he also sends... Oh, he doesn't send Larys, but he tells Larys to fetch Otto. So yeah, he's got Larys and Tyland and Orwyle and Jasper. And, you know, Orwyle is pretty pliant, I think.
Yeah.
Tyland, I think, he's gone. So yeah.
Jasper is just occasionally a little sassy.
He's sassy, but he's never done anything. Like, he always followed along with Otto.
And Aemond, like, immediately clocks Larys's ambition and he's like, nah, you're brown-nosing. You can't climb this ladder any higher while I'm in charge. That's not going to work.
Yeah, Larys Yeah, Aemond clocks Larys's ambition, but does he realize the danger of Larys? I don't think he does.
Oh, he definitely underestimates Larys, I think.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see that dynamic play out. I was kind of surprised that Larys was angling to be Hand of the King.
I think, do you think that he shouldn't have been that like clawing for direct power?
Yeah, because it caused Aemond to suspect him and put him down. Like I always see Larys as more of a from the shadows type guy.
Yeah.
Whereas being Hand sort of puts you more in the line of fire.
Yeah, my intuition there is that Larys underestimated Aemond.
Yeah.
He has to stick with Aegon. He has to stay on that train because this one's not working for him.
Which is interesting to put your bets on a man who is more barbecued chicken than man.
But the scene they have together is just wonderful.
It
just
is a wonderful
fantastic.
scene. Yeah, no, I mean, Hot D with Larys showing his vulnerability, like it continued Hot D's trend of having the most like worst evil characters imaginable and then making you feel bad for them. Like it's done that with Aegon. It's done that with
Kristen,
yeah.
if you're up for it.
Yeah.
Damon, this whole season has been trying to make us sympathize with Damon.
And even Alicent and to some extent Rhaenyra are people who have done catastrophically damaging things politically, but also have so many sympathetic layers.
And Otto too, the scene where he gets fired is like very sympathetic for him.
Yeah. So yeah, Hot D keeps doing this. I mean, and of course this is what the
and
books
Aemond
do
obviously
as well.
when he's cuddling his sex friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and
Sex friend, what the fuck?
I think that is a succinct and accurate description of Sylvie and Aemond's relationship. Did you see Alt Shift X in his latest video was suggesting that Aemond would marry Helena, foolishly forgetting that Aemond is already betrothed to Florys Baratheon?
Do you think Aemond would go back on his word like that?
I think that he would.
Damn. Not
Like-
an honorable guy.
Aemond is a ruthlessly ambitious man. Like we see that with how he, walked into this council through the approval of his brother Aegon and then betrayed and burned his brother Aegon and then also was turned against his own mother.
And he fired half the council.
And also like is now sending Kristen into the meat grinder. He's dismissing Kristen, replacing him with Otto. Like I think Aemond is clearly willing to betray people for the sake of his political advancement. So I think he absolutely would piss off the Baratheons if he had a more advantageous match with someone else.
That's true. I think the Baratheon alliance is a bit too important.
Well, is it? They haven't done anything.
That's true.
What are they doing?
They're not at war with the Greens. That's what they're doing for them.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. Some of the council are dubious of the idea of working with the Triarchy. You'll remember that these are the fellas who were once led by the crab feeder on the Stepstones.
These are pirates, corsairs.
They're not like super described as pirates in the books. They're more just like a military alliance.
Yeah.
But the show has leaned a bit more into the pirate characterization.
Yar.
And so Thailand is apparently going to have to chat with them.
So that'll be fun.
The Red Kraken waits.
The Red Kraken waits.
I'm excited about that.
Are we going to see him? I hope we're going to see him. I hope we meet Dalton Greyjoy next season.
Yeah, so Dalton Greyjoy is the Lord of the Iron Islands.
I hope that all of next season is about Dalton Greyjoy.
I would watch the hell out of that. I would watch the hell out of just Jason Lannister's daily life. Just bumbling around the Golden Tooth, demanding fancier and fancier.
You there, cut this wine.
Yeah, exactly. It's not sweet enough. I want more honey in my wine.
No, not that, honey. Oh.
Exactly. Take the honey back out of the wine. Oh, we also got a Beesbury mention this episode.
Hell yeah.
That was thrilling.
Yeah, justice for Beesbury.
House Beesbury is furious about the fate of Lyman Beesbury. Although it is quite a lot funnier in the books, because in the books, the Beesburys still think that Lyman, like the Greens keep insisting that Lyman Beesbury is alive. He's just in the dungeons at the Red Keep while actually having killed him through either cutting his throat or defenestration, depending on who you ask. So the entire time, like the Beesburys are fighting to like free their liege lord who had actually died. And Alan Beesbury teams up with Alan Tarley, so you have the two Allans running amok in the Reach. I don't know if we're going to get to see the two Allans in Hot Day. I doubt it.
I doubt it. But it is crazy how the Beesburys are now at war with the much more powerful High Towers just for justice for their lord.
Yeah. I mean, they're like the Starks.
Absolutely.
In that sense. when Robb fights for Ned, you know? So yeah, I find it very funny that Jasper says that Alicent should marry Dalton Greyjoy.
That is crazy. Dalton's like, what, 14, 16?
He's 16.
In the book, at least.
I believe, in the book. And he's a notorious loose cannon. Reaves and rapes and loves nothing better than killing.
This is House of the Dragon's chance to do Euron right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dalton doesn't have the... I mean, well, all right.
There's nothing explicit that makes him the spooky, mystical demon guy that Euron is in the books.
Yes. However, Dalton does have a Valyrian steel sword called Nightfall.
Hell yeah.
Which is almost as over the top as some parts of Euron. I think that Euron in the books might and should get Nightfall, incidentally. I think Nightfall is the most appropriate name for a sword for Euron.
Absolutely, especially if he... Oh, we're going into ice and fire theories now. Winds of Winter predictions.
Yeah.
Cast your bets now. You know, especially if Euron's plan is to cause the Long Night by tearing down the wall or destroying the High Tower or what, you know, one of the 1,000 different things he could do to fuck Westeros up.
Yeah, he has heaps of imagery in the books about silence, nightfall, darkness, black sails, like all the black and dark and cold and silent, which is what the Long Night is, you know? Yeah, it would be cool to delve into a little bit of that sort of Greyjoy mythos because Dalton is an embodiment of like the old way. He's an embodiment of let's make the Iron Islands great again and be what we used to be, which was badass pirates who used to raid and rave and didn't answer to nobody.
Yep.
It would be cool to like see some of that, like because it's this interesting like political ideology that the Greyjoys have, this cultural political ideology that drives him. It would be cool, like, and that's something that Euron should have explored in the Game of Thrones show, but mostly didn't.
They had their opportunity at the King's Moot and they did nothing with that scene.
Yeah, that was one of the most underwhelming scenes in GOT. But anyway, yeah, it is funny to see Alicent pushed to marry Dalton. It's a lot like Cersei being pushed to marry people in GOT.
Yeah, isn't there even talk of Catelyn remarrying after Ned dies?
Yeah. How long ago did Otto's wife, Allery, die?
Well, in this episode... Alicent says that Gwaine was 8 and motherless.
Oh.
So it depends on how old you think Gwaine Hightower is.
So it could be like 20 years.
Yeah.
So Otto was not remarried in 20 years. Otto is just
neither had Tywin, yeah.
Yeah, can we just admit that Otto is the same character as Tywin Lannister?
Same dude.
It's the same guy.
Fewer lions on his pauldrons. Never seen Otto in armor, have we? On Dragonstone in episode 2, episode 10.
He did wear armor. Like, remember he had that scene of putting on the armor
That's
and he talked
right.
to Alicent?
Yes!
That's the stuff.
I recall now.
Brain functioning. Memory glands at full maximum speed. So then Aemond says, Kristen, you need to march your army to attack Damon and Caraxes at Harrenhal.
Isn't it just after Kristen says, like, the smallest thing contrary to what Aemond thinks? Yeah. He's like, maybe we shouldn't make an alliance with the Triarchy. And he's like, you need to leave. You need to go die at Harrenhal.
Yeah, it's interesting that I've said this a million times. Like, it's the intersection of the personal and the political. Kristen is agreeing with Alicent and sticking up for Alicent by saying, maybe we shouldn't let the Triarchy come to Westeros. And I think he's doing that partly as like an olive branch to Alicent, saying like, hey, like I know that we've had this disagreement and I didn't pick you as regent, but I'm supporting you now.
Yeah, let's try and make it not just Aemond's will that the government is doing.
But Aemond takes that personally and says, well, if you disagree, then I'm going to send you to Harrenhal.
He was probably going to do that
Yeah,
anyway.
he was going to do that anyway. My gosh, Kristen also has very large pauldrons as well, doesn't he? My goodness. Pauldron watch.
He's got the largest pauldrons.
But yeah, do you think that a pauldron could double as a cauldron if it was sufficiently large?
I think yes, if you turn it upside down, yeah.
You could brew potions in it. Aemond sends Kristen to attack Harrenhal, so they're being attacked from two sides, Lannisters on the west and Kristen on the east. Despite the fact that Kristen just lost 900 men burned at Rook's Rest.
More than half of his army.
Do we have those numbers?
Well, yeah, he said 1,500 strong at Rook's Rest.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah.
And 900 of them died.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of dudes. I mean, there's probably some more fellas he could get from the Crown lands, which I suppose is why Rhaenyra tried to reinforce.
We should probably
and Crackler Point.
Be hearing about the Baratheon army in these council scenes.
Yeah, we've heard from all of the major houses
Except the Baratheons.
Except the Baratheons.
And we don't know what's going on in Dawn, but they're not part of the realm, really. So,
well, we do know that the Martells sided with the Triarchy.
Yeah.
That
was a while ago, yeah.
But I mean, the fact that they sided with the Triarchy is a pretty strong indication that they are not pals with anybody in the Groundlands. But yeah, I mean, the Stormlands are adjacent to the Groundlands, so you'd think that they'd be close enough to be relevant.
Yeah.
You know? So, Aemond is basically sending everyone off so that they can no longer oppose him. And I like how he's leaving it ambiguous who he's going to help and if he's going to help anyone. Like he just says, when the time is right, I will join you with Vhagar. So it's really up to Aemond who he wants to save and who he wants to let.
From Kristen's point of view, the last time Aemond did something with Vhagar, it was betraying Aegon. So is Kristen thinking, oh God.
Yeah. In that sense, Kristen and Aemond had that partnership and they had that trust and they were sending those letters. And now it seems like that trust is broken.
Well, Aegon wasn't a part of that plan at all.
Yeah. But now Kristen is like, oh, I'm no longer part of Aemond's plans, which means I am on the menu, you know?
Yeah.
If he's willing to sacrifice Aegon. I guess we have I guess we have to assume that Kristen knows that Aemond burned and betrayed Aegon.
Yeah, and he's just pretending he doesn't know.
We don't have certainty of that, but there were hundreds of men who, if they looked up, they would have seen Vhagar burn Sunfire. So
it
surely
happened pretty quickly.
Surely everyone knows. Well,
I was busy blocking an arrow from the Staunton soldiers.
Yeah, I guess it might depend how high up.
Chaos of battle.
But people must have seen. So, I don't know. Yeah, Aemond says, my Uncle Damon is a challenge I welcome if he dares face me.
I'm not afraid. Is he afraid? I'll fight him. My dad could beat up his dad.
I mean, Damon is frazzled to the tits in this episode. He was sobbing and threatening Simon with a penknife. If Damon is in that condition when Aemond faces him, I think Aemond has good odds.
It's true that Damon is unstable to the point of being useless, but he's also unstable to the point of being able to do anything.
Yeah, it's true.
He's more unpredictable than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that thing of if you don't want to get in a fight, just act crazy and no one knows what you're going to do.
Yeah, but the thing is, Aemond is also a little crazy, so they're matching each other's freak.
I feel like Aemon's crazy is more performative, whereas Damon's crazy is more he genuinely can't control himself.
We might just think that, though, because we're inside Damon's head at the moment.
Yeah.
We have more insight into what exactly is going on there.
That's true. Aemond is exerting his power, and then he fires his mum. He removes her from the small council. To
attend to more domestic duties.
Yeah.
Or whatever he means, domestic pursuits.
That's savage. I mean, the funny, it's a cruel and sexist thing to say. It's also, I think, really targeted to something real, which is that Alicent has neglected her domestic obligations in terms of being a good parent to her sons. And she highlights this herself when she says that, Aegon and Aemond are not kind. And she blames herself for that. So I think in that scene, Alicent acknowledges that, I have not looked after my own family particularly well. And, Gwaine sort of dismisses that. But I think that there's a kernel of truth to this cruel sexist thing of saying you should attend to your domestic matters.
That is true. She also never asked to be the mother of these children.
Yeah.
It's none of it's good.
Yeah, there's layers and layers to it and none of it's good, and Alicent asked for none of it. But it's just an irony to this, I suppose. And Alicent tries to say that hey, you need an adult in this room. And Alicent, of course, is one of the only people in this room who really sort of cares about Aemond, right? I mean, Larys and Jasper and Allweil don't have a personal connection to Aemond. They don't care about his well-being.
Kristen probably sort of does, but he just sent him away.
Yeah. So I think Aemond is definitely hurting himself by sending Alicent away. And as Alicent says, Aemond is impulsive and does need someone experienced, and Alicent has lots of experience. So it doesn't seem like a smart move. At the end of the day, he's regent. If he wants to do something against Alicent's wishes, he can. Yeah,
he doesn't have to fire her to do that.
Yeah, he doesn't gain anything by firing Alicent.
Just like Rhaenyra sending Alfred Broom away, Aemond sees Alicent as a nuisance on his council.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Alfred's a lot more of a nuisance than Alicent, I feel.
So far, probably, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it's true that if he didn't fire Alicent and Aemond would probably have a lot of continual tension and disagreement throughout.
Also, you gotta remember, Aemond is a teenage boy and his mum is telling him what to do.
How old is Aemond?
He's 17, verging on 30.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, isn't it? It's interesting in interviews, like on the official podcast last week, Aemond's actor Ewan Mitchell was saying that like what Aemond really wants is Alicent's love, which seems to kind of clash with this scene, doesn't it? Because it really seems like Aemond is prioritizing power over any kind of relationship with Alicent right now, right?
Maybe he's lashing out. Maybe he's thinking that she shouldn't be in this position. Maybe he's thinking that he earns her love by doing power.
I think it's similar to...
The same way that Damon thinks that he can earn Viserys' posthumous approval by doing power.
Yeah. It reminds me of the conversation Alicent had with Kristen last episode where Kristen was saying, I'm sparing you from having to do the dirty work because I'm the man and you're the girly girl, so I'm going to do the tough work and I spare you. I feel like there may be a similar dynamic here where Aemond is like... Because Aemond's language here, like, I think it is sincere when Aemond is saying, no, you're not obligated to be here anymore. It's okay. I've got it from here. I release you from this obligation. Alicent, of course, wants to be here, but I think Aemond genuinely is like, I'm the man in charge and it's a mercy to you that I'm handling this instead, just like Kristen was saying.
Does Alicent actually want to be here, or is it literally just all she has left?
I think that's a fantastic question. And I think Alicent has been asking herself that and will ask herself that even more.
In episode 9, she said to Otto, like, how could I know what I actually want?
Yeah.
Because your desires have been implanted upon me.
Yeah. Yeah. Alicent has increasingly been realizing that this was never what she wanted. And also she feels she should not be here because she's realizing she went against Viserys' wishes. And she's realizing that her own side is against her. So yeah, she must be thinking, what am I doing? Why am I here? And we've seen in the trailers like Alicent like standing by a lake, walking around in the woods. Like it seems as though she's going to do some soul searching and a bit of hiking, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, always good.
Yeah.
Get your steps up, Alicent.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Especially when you have a desk job.
Aemond's reaction here. Like he's actually getting tenderness from Alicent.
And he removes her hand from his face.
Yeah. Which is so sad. And yeah, Alicent, and of course Alicent feels this as both a profound political rejection, but also a profound personal rejection.
Which is probably more important.
I mean, like Alicent and Aemond have barely talked at all this entire season, right? And we've just had all these like comments of Alicent saying, you know what Aemond is. Like we haven't seen much interaction between them, so it's difficult to know how they feel about each other. I would like
one of these characters to say something to each other out loud.
Yeah.
I'm fine interpreting what characters feel. I just would like something concrete every so often.
Yeah, I feel like with Alicent and Aemond particularly, there's been very little like explicit talk, especially after like, you know, Aemond killing Luke last season was such a huge, catastrophic, consequential deal politically, but we never saw like the direct aftermath of that. And it's only been mentioned by the Greens kind of obliquely.
We really did need a scene of Aemond triumphantly returning to King's Landing, proclaiming that he's vanquished the first, you know, he's drawn the first blood. Aren't I great?
Yeah. I think that was a missed opportunity. At least to see like how he framed it and what the Greens think about it, rather than this subtle stuff where Alicent's just like, oh, Aemond, he sure did a bad thing, but I'm not going to say so. He just did. I don't know.
Alicent asks Aemond, have the indignities of your childhood not been sufficiently avenged? Which is, I love the way everyone talks in this show. But also, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And have the indignities of Alicent's childhood been avenged?
Well, yeah. When you're out for vengeance, how do you know when you're finished? And if you keep doing vengeance and hurting people, you just will have more people fighting you and you'll need to do more vengeance.
It's their turn to do vengeance.
When do you get off the hamster wheel of bloody vengeance, you know? Or does it just keep spinning around? You and Mitchell talked about how, you know, you never quite know what's going on with Aemond. Like, it's mysterious what exactly he wants and what exactly he's feeling. That's a deliberate choice by the actor. And so I like the idea that it's kind of like, well, maybe Aemond just wants to cleanly win this war as quick as possible. Or maybe Aemond wants Westeros to burn, you know? Like it sort of feels like it could be either of those things. And it kind of feels like Aemond hasn't decided himself between those two things, you know?
I think it's the same impulsive indecision that we see in Damon.
Yeah. Corlys is on Dragonstone. He's the hand of the queen.
He's in charge. Well, he's sort of in charge now, baby.
Adjacent to power.
I said last time that I'd be annoyed if we didn't have a scene where Corlys, like, sort of outs his gripes at Rhaenyra, and that didn't happen this episode, so I am annoyed.
Yeah, that needs to happen because as far as we know, Corlys still believes that Rhaenyra killed Corlys' son Laenor.
He said it as late as episode 10 of season 1.
That's a pretty crazy thing to not address, and it was never resolved between Rhaenys and Rhaenyra either. Like, Eve Best said that on the official podcast.
Yeah. Whereas, like, my interpretation of the characters' stories was that Rhaenys now believed, like, when Rhaenyra said that she wasn't complicit, Rhaenys actually believed her, but Eve Best seems to think that that wasn't the case.
I mean, Eve Best also seems to think that Rhaenys knew it was a suicide mission to go to Rook's Rest from the first place.
Yeah. On the one hand, like, that para material, is it, like, actually canonical? Should we actually take it into account of our understanding of the story? On the other hand, I can't say no to Eve Best.
Yeah, it's Eve Best that we're talking about.
She would never lie to us.
So people talk about like hierarchies of canon, like if it's in a published book, that is the top canon. And then a step down is what George Martin said. And then a step down is something in peripheral material. But for me, at the very apex of the canon pyramid is anything that Eve Best has ever said on a camera.
Especially on TikTok.
Yes. Some sort of a pirate leaked 360p TikTok of Eve Best offhandedly, drunkenly saying something about Panthers is objective truth in my eyes. That's my epistemology. Eve Best told, okay.
And that's not just for Ice and Fire.
That's for all things, not just Westeros matters. That's life matters.
She is the prophet.
So Rhaenys now has a powerful man standing next to her, so hopefully she will have her authority respected a bit more.
With the presence of a powerful man.
Yes. You know the concept of like noddies in politics? Like when a politician has a press conference and they have a bunch of like serious looking men nodding behind the politician.
Right. This guy knows what he's talking about. Yeah.
I think that may be part of Corlys' job.
Isn't that what I am for you?
I thought it was the other way around.
Oh.
I've been nodding for you this entire time.
Oh my God, thank you.
Maybe we're mutual noddies. Nodding goes both ways.
That's sort of cute.
So Rhaenyra complains maybe for the 18th time that she wants to fly on a dragon and no one is letting her fly on a dragon because she's the queen.
By this point, it's just like sort of petty snipes at her council. Like, well, they won't let me go, so I'm gonna like you're gonna have to try.
Yeah, this is how I feel about like Rhaenyra slapping Bartimaeus. I feel like Rhaenyra is just as irritated and irritable and lashing out as her councillors are, if not more.
I want to clarify. Last time we said we were frustrated with Rhaenyra's behavior, like in the wake of Rook's West, the Battle of Rook's West, where Rhaenys Targaryen died.
There's a lot of R's in this show, so it's a tricky one for speech impediments.
And I just want to make clear, I'm frustrated on behalf of Rhaenyra. I'm not frustrated at her.
I'm both. However, it is consistent characterization because the way we were introduced with Rhaenyra is someone who wants to fly her dragon, but she has political responsibilities which annoy her.
Right.
So this has always been part of Rhaenyra's bag, and it is consistent with like what a lot of the characters feel, like with what Alicent feels, which is that she never wanted political responsibilities. And Rhaenyra especially never wanted political responsibilities, but she was forced into it.
Very plainly in this episode, is it Alys who says that Rhaenyra never wanted it?
So this is like a completely, like this is part of the show's message, which is that when you force teenagers to become queens, you get bad outcomes. And that's not entirely the fault of the queens or the kings. It's the fault of the system.
It's Ryan Condal's radical anti-monarchy perspective.
It's all gosh darn right. How dare Ryan Condal question monarchic feudalism? What gives Ryan Condal the right to question monarchy?
I would watch your back, Ryan, because Charles is a serious guy. Have you seen that portrait? My goodness.
I would not mess with that Eldritch Charles. Can we put Eldritch Charles as the thumbnail of this Dragon Time?
I think that's not so great for click-through rate.
Well, that's a testable hypothesis.
I'll do some A/B testing.
Yeah, are you using the A/B testing?
No, I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. You put in 2 serious thumbnails and 1 absolute meme thumbnail and see if it's more popular.
Interesting. I should have done that with, we'll talk about it off screen. Anyway, Rhaenyra, when we first, that first scene in the Godswood with Rhaenyra and Alicent, Rhaenyra says that the 3 things she wants in life are to fly on her dragon, to hang out with her bestie, and to eat cake. She is being actively denied 2 of those 3 things. We need to see Rhaenyra chowing down on some cake next episode.
It's true. I mean, and that fits with the canon because in the books, Rhaenyra eats a bunch of food and gets more fat. So it would be both.
Oh my God, that makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, if we don't see Rhaenyra going to town on some lemon cakes, then I will be outraged at Ryan Condal.
Do you think she's kissing Mysaria as a facsimile for Alicent?
I don't think we should make too much of the romantic Alicent Rhaenyra connection because also girls are allowed to be friends. That also is allowed. And also that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they've both changed and matured since then.
And what happened between Rhaenyra and Mysaria? I love this freeze frame, by the way. What happens between Rhaenyra and Mysaria at the end of this episode is sort of, whoa. That wasn't premeditated. That wasn't born out of some long-held romantic desire for one another.
It's less of a comment on Rhaenyra's feelings for Mysaria as much as it's a comment on Rhaenyra's feelings about gender, right? I mean, as you said, this show...
She's waving swords around and she's pashing chicks.
Yeah.
She's becoming a dude. She says in this episode that she wanted to be a dude.
Yeah, the whole point of this show is that she's been frustrated with female gender roles that she's been forced into and therefore experiments with the idea of a male gender role, which of course you don't need to have a male gender role to bash a girl, but in this context of this world that fits into a male gender role. And so I guess that's part of what's going on. Although at the same time, of course, Rhaenyra is attracted to Mysaria because Mysaria is very attractive.
Because we've all seen her.
We've all seen Sonoya Mizuno. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and we will talk about that more. I mean, I felt some ick in that Mysaria and Rhaenyra made out immediately after Mysaria described being raped by her
trauma
father.
dumped.
Yeah, it was the trauma dump and then the making out, which I think there is an element of ick there that some people may feel.
Little perverse, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever your feelings are about this are valid, but I think there's a lot of interesting angles to it.
Actually, there is one person out there whose feelings aren't valid on this. I don't know who it is, but they're out there.
Oh, you know who you are.
Who you are.
You're disgusting. So Rhaenyra says, we need dragons. We need dragon riders for Vermithor and Silverwing and Seasmoke. She does not mention Sheep Stealer, Grey Ghost, or Cannibal.
Well, as Jane Aaron points out later in this episode, alas, it's a wild dragon.
Yeah.
There's nothing we're going to do about that.
Yeah, it seems like there's this sort of hard distinction in these people's heads between Vermithor, Silverwing, and Seasmoke. Well, I mean, Seasmoke kind of is wild at this point, right?
Yeah, it's is the distinction made from the cradle? Is that what makes it not a wild dragon?
Yeah, I guess it's the fact
and
that...
it makes you wonder, where the hell did Sheepstealer and Grey Ghost come from?
Yeah, I mean, one of the fun bits in the lore is that someone claims that the wild dragon, the cannibal, has been in Westeros since before the Targaryens came, which is almost certainly not true. I mean, if that was true, cannibal would be huge.
It would also be starved to death if it only ate dragons.
I don't think the cannibal has an exclusive dragon-only diet.
It's very fussy, like a cat.
But it's a sort of an open question, what makes a dragon a wild dragon? Because Vermithor and Silverwing live in Dragonstone, in the caves under the Dragon Mont, presumably.
They're the old grandma and grandpa who still hang out here.
And yeah, I guess Seasmoke is considered a non-wild dragon because it was ridden by Laenor.
Yeah, if Seasmoke is wild, then what the hell are Vermithor and Silverwing? They haven't been ridden in decades.
Well, but they stay at home.
Right.
Whereas seasmoke is an outside cat, is the distinction I'm making. And seasmoke seems to like roam freely between Dragonstone and Driftmark. And
I love that when Laurent Marbrand, who incidentally after Stefan Darkland dies is the only member of Rhaenyra's Kingsguard.
Yeah,
Queensguard, sorry. He walks in and says, "Seasmoke's flying over Driftmark," and Rhaenyra's like, "Yeah, he does that." It's fucking hilarious.
I like how everyone other than the Targaryens is fairly perturbed about the fact that there are giant fire-breathing lizards just loose upon the realm. And the Targaryens are just totally relaxed about that.
Yeah, that's
but
just
the civilians
seasmoke.
are not. Like the inherent like sort of instability and like anxiety of just the existence of dragons roaming around is very like felt.
It's honestly hilarious.
It's pretty great.
Hot D is the funniest sitcom on TV right now. I just have to say.
I have laughed out loud at every episode of House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing that for Game of Thrones. And the funny thing is that Game of Thrones had jokes in it and House of the Dragon doesn't.
It has a few jokes that are just like there for you to like cringe at Jason Lannister.
Well,
Viserys cracked a few jokes.
Yeah, no, well, that's true. That's true. I feel like in the later seasons of Game of Thrones, though, like Peter Dinklage and Bronn, like there were a few occasions where they just looked at the camera and told a joke or said something about dicks or balls. Like that, it was not even trying to be like an in-world conversation.
Dick.
It was more like a Marvel...
it.
A Marvel joke, where they're winking at the audience. Whereas the jokes in Hot D in the world directed at each other, Like it's actually character stuff as opposed to Game of Thrones, which is like out of character balls talk.
Balls.
Yeah.
Dick.
So they
And
tell
that's still pretty funny. Dick on
Lannister.
That's the peak of humor.
It's funny because he said dick. Well, Nimble Dick Crab is funny though, so I don't make the rules. So apparently the Darklands are related to the Targaryens?
Yeah. Everyone knew that.
Ariana Targaryen? That name?
Grandmother's grandmother. That's like around the time of Aegon, right?
Or before.
Grandmother's grandmother. How old is Stefan Darkland? We don't have time for this.
If people reproduce at age 20, so what?
Which of course they do. That's when humans have children, obviously.
Well, I mean, in Westeros, sometimes it's earlier than that.
Ugh.
If we assume an average of 20, then it's like, what? Like
4 generations.
20, 40, 60, 80.
That's right. 4 20s are 80.
All right, just don't math shame me, Glidus. What is it 80 or is it 100?
No, it's
What is
80.
it?
You're right.
It's 80. So
Yeah,
80 years
plus however
ago,
old Stefan Darkland is.
40?
He looks like 40 or whatever, maybe 50.
So like 120 years ago. So basically around the time of the conquest.
yeah.
Who the hell is Ariana Targaryen?
She was a princess, apparently. Hang on. If it's before the conquest, there was
wasn't a
no
princess.
kingdom. She couldn't have been a princess. Rhaenyra!
Yeah,
You're lying!
What records is she reading? What wiki did she get that off?
She's reading fanfic.
Citation
She has
needed.
logged on to AO3.
No, for real.
And
Rhaenyra,
Ariana Targaryen is someone's OC who she's
Yeah?
mistaken for an ancestor.
Rhaenyra, stop. You went onto the RP wiki by accident. That's not the wiki, that's the mush. You did the mush. It's an entirely different web zone. Oh no, you went on to the Wikia one, not the Westeros.org one. I think this might make no sense.
Grandmother's grandmother.
Because-
unless these people are unless Stefan Darkland is secretly like 20 years old and all of his grandmother's like had children at age 14.
But
This sounds like nonsense. But like we would know if there was another
Exactly.
princess born to Aegon.
exactly, there were no Targaryens at the time of the conquest other than Aegon, Rhaenys, and Visenya. If there were, they would have been mentioned.
Targaryen princess. If it didn't say princess, this could be fine. But it says princess.
And like, I guess the most reasonable interpretation is that Rhaenyra is incorrect to call Ariana a princess. Like, this is just a mistake by Rhaenyra, and Ariana was just a Targaryen who lived sometime before the conquest, because it may have, these people might have had kids after age 20, which probably would have been unusual, but let's say they did, and Ariana lived before Aegon. But I mean, that still leaves open the question of where did all those Targaryens go? How were there only 3 Targaryens in the world after them being on Dragonstone for what, like 100 years?
Yeah.
Before, like after the Doom? Where'd the Targaryens go?
Huh? What happened to them?
Maybe they were in Valyria. Might make sense.
Well, they like went back, or there were others who just didn't go with Aenar.
Yeah, I mean, you could write a whole story. Like you could, like maybe some of
Aenar's brother who didn't come with him and Daenerys.
Well, I'm thinking like maybe like there were a bunch of Targaryens came to Dragonstone, but some of the Targaryens were like true believers in Daenerys' prophecy, and some were not. And the ones who were not maybe went back to Valyria, or maybe some people went to Valyria to try and warn Valyrians and convince them to leave Valyria or something. Oh. But I mean, yeah, there is still the question of after 100 years, how did only 3 Targaryens remain?
Well, they keep marrying each other.
Yeah.
Which like sort of halves the potential pool for more people to be born into the family.
And seems to introduce birth defects and birth complications.
I think that some of them may have died trying to claim dragons.
Yeah. Yeah, having fire-breathing lizards in your house is an occupational hazard.
Because, and I can't remember the entire family tree like photo realistically in my head, but I'm pretty sure there's one case where in a single generation, there's one Lord Targaryen who dies, there's another Lord Targaryen who dies, then there's a third one who then has children, and then his children, but like these 3 dudes are all brothers and they die before having children.
Right, if you refuse to marry anyone other than your sibling, you're screwed if you don't have a sister.
Well, that is true. But I was more getting at, I think that those brothers all attempted to claim Velaryon or whoever, and they died, and then Game On managed to get Velaryon and had children.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So yeah, two factors, incest and lizards killing you.
Incest and lizards. A house of incest and lizards.
A song of...
I mean, the other question is, why would a Targaryen princess marry a Darklan? Why would they do that?
Just an itsy-bitsy minor clarification. Ariana Targaryen did not necessarily have to have married a Darklan, just that her great-great-grandson is a Darklan, right? She could have married into a more notable house, and then her daughter married into a less notable house, and then so on until we get to Stefan Darklan 4 generations down the line. We failed to realize this during the recording, so you're going to hear us say that Targaryen did marry a Darklan, where that's not necessarily what happened. Just wanted to make that clear. I'd also like to point out that Bartimos Celtigar is like sort of scoffing at the idea that the Darklans have Targaryen blood, which is really funny because the Celtigars are a Valyrian house that the Targaryens like haven't intermarried with. They don't share the dragon blood with the Celtigars, but they do with the Velaryons, and Bartimos is annoyed about that like generational dynastic snubbing of his house. So that's a cool little detail. And it probably contributes to him being such a twit to Rhaenyra later on in the episode. So that's fun.
Because that's the thing, like in the books, there is a history of Targaryen men marrying Velaryon women.
Yeah.
Which means that the Targaryens still keep the Targaryen blood in the Targaryen
family. But the Targaryen
family.
Women can't leave the Targaryen family because then that's their blood getting out of their house.
Yeah, so the Targaryen women only marry Targaryens for most of Targaryen history as far as we've seen. Like, I mean, there are later... Well, no. When does a Targaryen woman marry? I mean, Emma Arryn's... Yeah, Daella. What other examples? Which is kind of a huge deal that they did that they let the Velaryons have dragon blood.
Rhaenyra's husband after Maegor was not Targaryen, but, you know, she can go off and do whatever. She's Rhaenyra. She's earned her right to marry whoever she wants.
Yeah. So, yeah, it seems like odd, to say the least, it is odd that a Targaryen quote-unquote princess would marry a goddamn Darklan who are not... I mean, the Darklans of Duskendale, I suppose, are one of the more powerful houses.
I could believe
the Crownlands.
That the Darklans were the most important house. Like, wasn't the because the Crownlands were bandied about between the rulers of the Stormlands, whoever was in charge of the Riverlands at the time. But of the houses from the Crownlands, the Darklans were probably the most powerful, right?
Yeah, because Duskendale's like this big market town, and it was bigger than King's Landing for a long time. It makes sense that the Targaryens of the time would want to ally with the Darklans, but giving them a Targaryen woman dragon blood to the Darklands seems like uncharacteristic behavior because the Targaryens just do not do that.
Yeah, you could just burn Duskendale if they didn't want to ally with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have dragons. Why do they need to give away their princesses? So yeah, that's weird behavior, I would say. Like the reason why they intermarry with the Velaryons specifically is because the Velaryons have Valyrian blood, which is considered dragon blood adjacent, like the Targaryens consider it more acceptable to marry other Valyrians because the Targaryens are racist, like blood purity, blood supremacy is part of their ideology. So
are you telling me the main characters in this story that I like, my likable main characters, are all racists?
I am saying they're all racist. I mean, yeah.
Damn.
That's always the funny thing when people are like, Game of Thrones reinforces the idea of like the hero and the prophesied destined chosen one who's going to save the world. It's like, mate, read Ice and Fire. They are obviously not going to end this with, and then the heroes saved the world because they had the superior blood and the prophecy. Everything about the book so far is about questioning, deconstructing, and critiquing that idea,
No, Jon Snow is going to save the world because he has the correct blood.
Yeah. They're all leading up to a critique of that. And I wonder if, is Hot D going to do that? I don't see them doing that. I think they're more interested in critiquing like patriarchy and violent political systems in general, I think, is what Hot D is more about.
Well, they included the prophecy in the story for a reason. It has to be going somewhere.
I hope they critique the prophecy. I have a bad feeling they're not going to. I have a bad feeling that what they're going to do with the prophecy is, oh no, tragically, the prophecy was forgotten and disregarded.
We're not going to know about the magical blood person who's going to save the world because having the right blood is going to let them.
Yeah, maybe they won't do that, but I got a bad feeling they will do that. And they're going to be like, oh no, the reason why the White Walker apocalypse is so bad in Season 8, the reason why Game of Thrones Season 8 is bad is because they forgot about the prophecy. Whoa, if only they knew the prophecy.
If only David Dan knew the prophecy.
Which has like a hilarious meta twist to it, like they are correct that the reason why Game of Thrones Season 8 was bad was because they didn't have enough written material. They didn't have enough prophecy. They didn't have the Winds of Winter,
I think there's been enough rewrites of that show by fans to justify the claim that it could have been good regardless of how much George had written. I think it was possible for them to do a good job.
Yeah. I don't know.
That is such a powerful phrase.
I say it a lot. Well, here's a new page for the wiki. Throw it on the pile with the others. Ariana.
Melt it down and add it to the rest.
I will say, the name Ariana is unspellable and unpronounceable enough to be law appropriate. Maybe George Martin suggested this. I feel like there's very obviously like Targaryen Valyrian names that are good that George kept for important characters like Daenerys and Rhaegar. And then there's characters that were not important to him, and that's how we ended up with like
Visera.
Visera's not I enjoy bad. Actually, yeah.
Gale is a bit uninspired, I think.
Gale is uninspired. Who's
sorry to all the like actual Gales. I mean, like as a Targaryen name, as a normal name, it's like it's fine.
So anyway, the point is that Rhaenyra says, "Hey, since your grandma's grandma Ariana Targaryen was a Targaryen, you therefore have a little bit of the dragon blood." And I mean, what's that, 164th or something?
Teeny tiny little droppy drop.
A drop of dragon blood. Which in fairness, like Daenerys has...
She's more Blackwood than she is Targaryen. There's less of Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys in there than there is of Betha Blackwood.
Yeah, the
Benji Samwell Blackwood is in there more than Aegon the Conqueror is.
You might be shocked to hear this, but the racist notion of blood purity doesn't really hold up to scientific or mathematical analysis. I know. It's shocking. So Rhaenyra says because you are like 128th Targaryen, you might be able to ride a dragon. And again, this is on the assumption that you need Targaryen blood to ride dragons, which Jace kind of questioned in the previous episode. So who knows? Let's let Steffi ride a dragon. So Stefan's like, I'm all for it.
I wish that this scene steered more into Stefan's motivation for wanting to be a dragon rider because his father was just beheaded. I think that we should have mention here of him wanting to burn Kristen Cole to death. I
absolutely agree. Like, I feel like it's kind of there in the subtext, but because like Stefan mentioned last episode that he wants to take action to answer for Duskendale.
I'd have liked to see it here as well, though.
I completely agree. I think that it would be more powerful if Stefan said that this episode as opposed to last episode,
Or both.
If Rhaenyra can say 17 times this season that I want to fly my dragon, but no one's letting me fly my dragon, then Stefan should be able to say that twice.
He's allowed to say that his dad is dead more than once.
Yes, I agree. And I do like how Rhaenyra says, hey, Stefan, this is dangerous, so this is not a command. I am giving you the option to choose here. I like how she does that.
Later on, when Alan asks Corlys, is this an order or a request? It's an order. It's a fun little parallel.
Except Corlys doesn't even say.
Yeah.
Like
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Yeah, the Alan Corlys relationship, I think, got deepened in a way that I liked this episode because I was a little bit frustrated. I mean, in a similar way that I'm frustrated with Rhaenyra doing nothing and being frustrated about it for the entire season, I was getting frustrated with Alan doing nothing and being frustrated with it. But it got deepened a bit more this episode in a way that I liked.
I like Addam this episode as well.
Yeah.
But first, we have to talk about Damon strolling through the Dream Throne Room once more. And guess who's back? Back again.
Paddy Considine.
Tell a friend.
I think it's fun that they repeat the scene from episode 1.
Yeah.
When Viserys exiled Damon.
But Damon knows what's going to happen and he knows the consequences of it. He knows that him and his brother being torn apart is terrible for both of them. So instead of reacting angrily as he did in that scene in episode 1, he reacts tearfully. He's sad about what's going to happen. He says, no, this is terrible.
Yeah. The feeling of helplessness, like he's seen this movie before and he knows that he can't do anything about it. I like how he has his sort of choking hands raised in this shot again. Like this is his move, like with Rhaenyra, he almost choked her.
Viserys, you're dying. Let me choke you.
The performance is different in this scene. Like in the episode 1 version of this dialogue, the way that Viserys shouts, "Whores and lick spittles," is really emphatic.
Yeah.
In season 1, this doesn't quite hold a candle to it, but I suppose that's not the point. So yeah, this is Viserys's this is Daemon's trauma.
Oh yeah,
and this is his guilt.
This is the core of it.
Like Damon could have said in this scene, "I'm sorry," or he could have said, "I didn't say F for a day," or "I didn't mean it as an insult," or something. Because I remember in season 1, some of the speculation was
did he actually say that, or did Mysaria make it up and tell Otto?
Yeah, there was some ambiguity about what exactly the context and the tone was, and Damon in the scene does not take the opportunity to clarify that in any way.
Well, I think that's because it doesn't really matter to Damon at this point in time. He knows what happened.
Yeah,
and he does say sorry to Viserys later, doesn't he? In the next vision.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it's more important, rather than defending himself and clarifying what he actually meant, which he may have actually meant what Otto thought he meant. He may have done the bad thing.
Yeah.
It's more important that he's just there for his brother. And that's the thing. That's what that's the trauma he's reliving here, is that he did the thing that separated him from the person he loved in this world the most.
Yeah.
It's because of his shit behavior and his inability to work with the people he cares about, that he's in this terrible position, that he was robbed from what he thought was the right thing for his life, which was being the heir to the throne.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. The point is not whether he said F of the day. The point is that he failed to support and have a healthy relationship with his brother, and that's what causes him pain.
And that was on the day, as Viserys says later, there was the day that he died. Viserys died that day. He was done. He was broken forever.
Emotionally, after the death of his wife, Emma. I feel like this, of all the visions, has the most authentic feeling of a nightmare. Trying to open this door and reliving this trauma.
Yeah.
And it has a very, very real nightmarish feeling, which I think works really well.
I like how we see Damon react violently. He bangs on the door and tries to force it open. And then he realizes that's not working. And so he grovels. He gets down. He's weak and he pleads.
I think this is the first time we've seen Damon utter the word please. He's discovered his manners.
He says, "I'm sorry." He says, "Please." He asks for help in this episode.
Yeah.
This is crazy, bro. This is brand new stuff dropping on the Damon Targaryen train.
Yeah, I think this is showing that, Alis and Harrenhal are doing their work and they are altering Damon to some extent. Damon is changing his behavior as a result.
Is he becoming a better man? Is he going to return to Rhaenyra able to deal with himself now?
Yeah. We can only hope, but his treason was only becoming more pronounced last episode.
Yeah.
With him saying he'll go to Rhaenyra with or without. So
He's sort of simultaneously going in both directions.
yeah. Well, yeah, he's swinging wildly from one to the other because, I mean, he's also like, he threatens to kill Simon Strong at this point right now, you know? So it's like, it's not like Damon is a nice guy TM. He's still, I mean, he's becoming unhinged in this scene.
Oh, yeah. This guy's done for.
Again, it's so funny that like he accuses Simon of being like a traitor and he like,
This sweet old man who'd never hurt anyone.
he just wants to give you peas,
Which
Damon.
is really crazy saying that about the actor who played Beria in The Death of Stalin.
But Damon does not direct any of this hostility at Alys, who obviously is responsible for this. Like, why is that? Why is Damon not angry at Alys?
Well, first of all, Simon is in front of him right now.
Yeah.
And always a good move to just attack what's in front of you.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Alys is a woman, just he doesn't perceive her as a threat.
Yeah, I think that may be part
Maybe.
of-
That's me out on a limb though. I don't know.
and she's not blonde, so he's not sexually attracted to her.
He is crazy. He's gone nuts.
Yeah, I am enjoying Matt Smith's
he's loving it.
unhinged Damon performance. Like, I mean, the number of faces that he pulls, like in this shot alone, look how many faces he put. Look,
He's going through like a fucking
going on
a
here?
hue wheel of human emotions.
Oh my god, yeah, no, he is snapping. This man is snapping. He faced his truth and it made him snap. Yeah, the Strongs are perturbed.
If I were acting opposite Matt Smith in that scene, I would be legitimately frightened.
Yeah. I love how he like actually pokes the knife like at Simon Strong's lip.
Yep.
As though he might actually pierce it. It's very scary.
And then he repeatedly tells Gormless son number 1 to stay out of it. We are, by the way, reaching levels of gormlessness unbecoming of a horse.
Yeah, if you look at maximum Gorm, this is its polar opposite. It's like the absolute zero of Gorm. This is minus 271.
We've drawn a Gorm vacuum.
This is zero Gorm Kelvin, you know? So Damon packs his cute travel bag.
I love his satchel. It's so cute.
And his knife. I love how sheepish he looks. Like there's like a walk of shame.
I have to get out of here.
And he looks so small beneath the towers of Harrenhal.
What do you think's in the satchel? What's he got in there?
Cheese.
Snacks for Caraxes?
It's a snack satchel.
Snacks for Caraxes? Caraxes snacks?
Must be. Yeah,
He's a
Caraxes
little
is chilling
snack.
next to the weirwood.
As you do.
I mean, this is quite something.
It's great. I love it.
When was the last time we saw a weirwood and a dragon in the same shot? Game of Thrones season 8 with the dragons flying over Winterfell.
Did we even see the? Oh yeah, we did.
They were never
There's
this
that aerial
close
shot.
though. This is the closest we've seen a dragon to a weirwood.
This is some magical shit going down.
Yeah, if they had a White Walker in this shot, it would be like the 3 like most significant magical axes of power in this world. I would love to know what Caraxes thinks of this weirwood.
Does he want to burn it? Caraxes wants to burn everything.
Caraxes is facing the weirwood. Do you think he's praying?
Yeah.
So Alys is like, look at what Alys is doing. She's like got her eyes closed almost. She's like meditating in front of the weirwood or something. She looks like I mean, let's be honest, she's connecting with the weirwood magically, right?
Yeah.
Alys is having a conversation with Caraxes through the tree right now, isn't she?
Or she's talking with Bloodraven through time or some shit like that. Some Joe Magician crap that I won't understand until he tells me what happened.
As soon as I saw this scene, I was like, oh man, I'm so happy for Joe Magician right now.
right?
Joe Magician is going to love the owl and love this face. And Joe Magician
Do you
is
think Ryan is doing this for Joe? He gave me the horse bit and he's giving
When's my bit, Glidus? No, Ryan is doing a lot of fan service, I feel. Like the lemon mural. I mean, come on. The Lemon Gate mural.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
With fucking Ariane Targaryen, though. That's for you.
Ayahuasca Targaryen.
That's what Damon needs right now.
Joe Magician is a Ice and Fire YouTuber who makes good videos, so you should check out.
He loves yapping about the Strongs. He loves yapping about Harrenhal and the old gods.
Yeah. Yeah, Alys, I mean, you know what Alys is actually doing is walking into an owl right now.
True.
Like, they definitely had a conversation where they're like, do we show Alys with the white eyes that, like, Bran has in Game of Thrones for warging? But they chose, no, let's just make her eyes kind of closed. Let's make it more subtle and ambiguous.
I thought she was just vibing.
Wait, has she got her AirPods in? I think she's just, like, listening to some, like, shoegaze type music, you know?
Either that or it's like Dragon Force.
She's listening to Materia. Check out Glidus's band on
You
Spotify.
don't have to do that.
I want to. So Alys is listening to some beats and or being an owl, eating some mice. And yeah, Damon's like,
Even though it's broad daylight.
Someone poisoned me. This swamp air. I love how Damon lists every possible cause of his visions except for
the witch that he knows is a witch and who he drank a potion of for some reason.
He drank the drugs that she gave him and he's blaming the swamp air. I think Alys is like fuggling with Damon's head.
He
and that's
continues
why
to blame the peas.
I mean, it's emblematic of what Damon always is, which is blaming everything except the actual root cause, which is usually him, you know?
I mean, even in this case, what he's like, the problem he's having is that he's being forced to experience himself.
Yeah, don't make me face the truth. The ghosts, the curses, the blasted weirwood bed. Like he kind of knows that is what's going on, but he just refuses to believe it. Like he has a similar vibe. Like in the books, there is this whole thing of like magic versus the non-magical world. And there are characters who refuse to believe in magic, like Luwin. And how does Luwin die? On the altar of magic, on the weirwood tree in Winterfell. That's where his blood goes. Crescent gets defeated by Melisandre's magic and dies at her feet. And I feel like Damon has similar energy of like he's denying magic and being reduced at its feet.
In season 1, Damon said that dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. He's rejecting the magical component of Targaryen power.
Which is part of his frustration with Viserys. This is how he tries to be different to Viserys. It's like, well, you might be stuck in your dreams and your nonsense, but I'm a real man of real action.
I'm here accruing tangible power.
Alys reveals that she has seen House of the Dragon season 1.
And she's currently watching season 2.
Yeah, she may have seen season 3 as well at this point. She lists all of the places.
She knows who's going to play Daeron.
Oh, we should ask her.
Yeah.
Do you think Alys would do an interview with us?
Absolutely. Do you think Gail Rankin would do interviews like 100% in character?
That's who I want to interview. Which Hot D actor will be most willing to do the interview fully in character, in costume?
I feel like Eve Best would do Rhaenys. No, she'd do Eve Best, but dressed as Rhaenys.
Yeah, I don't think Eve Best does Rhaenys. I think Rhaenys does Eve Best.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, Damon's freaking out, basically. And Alys says, it's because of my magic. And Damon says, no, it's not. Shut up. And Alys alludes to destiny. You're a piece on the board. Which is kind of interesting. I mean, like, do the old gods have a plan for Damon? I don't get the sense that that's the case from, like, book vibes, but maybe the old gods have a plan for Damon in Hot D. I don't know.
I'm interested to see where this angle is going.
Yeah, I don't love this sort of vague hand-waving notion of destiny because I think it's actually counter to the message of the books in a lot of ways, which are really about questioning the whole notion of destiny along with all these other fantasy tropes and knighthood. And yeah, I feel like the books are about disillusioning and deconstructing those very ideas.
So that's one way of reading this line. I'd say another one is that Alys is telling Damon that he needs to be a part of Rhaenyra's campaign. Hey, this isn't you. You just need to help her. But then, like, it's tied up in her saying that there are things older in this world than you and I.
Yeah.
And, you know, which really does make it feel a lot more magical and grand in scope.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. What does she mean by older things in this world? Like, is it just the trees? Is it the old gods? Is that what she's saying?
I think it's the trees. I mean, you could also think of, like, dragon power in general. I mean, every episode of this season starts with a blood magic ritual over a dragon with wings of fire. And like, I mean, that is an older, more powerful thing is dragon power.
Right. And it's still living and it lives through Damon.
Yeah. So I feel like that's another one of the forces. And of course, the White Walkers are an older force.
Ancient blood magical rituals that live on through the people currently, you know, acting them out. Damon with his dragon riding, Alys with her old god's magic, which like may have been imparted onto humans 1 billion years ago between them and the children of the forest.
Possibly through the same ritual that created the dragon. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the books are really oriented to people. I mean, the books are about questioning those big abstract constructs and recentering perspective onto human people because that's what really matters.
Through the first 3 books, you're wondering where the hell these dreams are coming from when you're reading Bran's chapters, and then you meet Bloodraven. It's just a guy.
It's a guy who's plugged into a tree. And I mean, he is plugged into a force that's older and greater,
But he is a human.
But that's the thing that I feel very strongly that the solution and the end and the resolution of this story is not going to be it was preordained by an ancient magical force that is inescapable in destiny, and that is what resolves everything. No, in George Martin's writing, it is the human beings who make choices to resolve things.
Someone made a decision and gave some sort of sacrifice, and there we go.
So this whole idea of you're not a player, you're just a piece on the board. I mean, that was the problem I had with Bran in Game of Thrones Season 8. Oh, you were exactly where I needed you to be, John. It was all preordained.
It's
Why do you think
bullshit.
I came all this way? Like, that is exactly the sort of like bullshit arm-waving, destiny westerny nonsense that I feel that the books are questioning.
Something that we haven't mentioned, though, is that Alys might be wrong.
Yeah.
This is just her opinion, man.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
is like
yeah.
just what she thinks, dude.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, because Alys, I think, is someone who believes in a religion. I mean, Melisandre, right? I mean, Melisandre
Absolutely.
is someone who speaks and believes in a religion. And what happens in the books is she turns out to be wrong. She's made a few mistakes, and she may still be part of the solution in other ways, but she made mistakes. So yeah, maybe in a similar way, Alys is going to be a character who like believes in some sense of destiny, which then may be questioned later on. It certainly appears that she has a plan for Damon, right? Like, I think it's really interesting that Alys apparently assassinates Lord Grover Tully this episode.
That's pretty helpful for Damon.
Yeah, so even though Alys is continually criticizing Damon and forcing him to self-reflect and mucking with his brain and giving him incest dreams of a duck, at the same time that she's doing that, she helps Damon politically enormously by killing Grover and then therefore allowing the Tullys to actually become a leader and for the Riverlands to potentially be united.
You could think of it as Alys is like withholding her assistance until Damon makes enough progress to ask for help from someone.
No, he is literally like, I will let you rule the Riverlands, but only after you do therapy.
That's what's happening. And then he's like, please help me. And yes, we've done it. Major breakthrough. I will now kill an old man for you.
Pointing his axe. Yeah, it's like little gold stars for every check mark that Damon attains in his psychological self-examination. He gets a free murder from Alys Rivers.
Fucking stepdad training at Harrenhal. Damon has to go back to emotional school.
Every healthy relationship has an ultimatum where she says you have to go to therapy or we're done, right? That's normal, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's not just you.
So the idea that Alys is, I get, look, Melisandre believed in Stannis and tried to use Stannis, and it didn't end very well. Maybe Alys believes in Damon and is trying to use Damon, and it might not end very well. Maybe that's what's happening.
Maybe.
I think that is something that would make sense, and I think that would be interesting.
You know how Melisandre's belief in Stannis is sort of, especially in Game of Thrones as opposed to Ice and Fire, it like floats from Stannis to Jon. Alys's belief in Damon might also float.
Yes. I am very excited to see where this goes. I think there's a lot of intriguing possibilities, and I love how it takes the book lore and it expands on it in a way that is consistent with the book lore and also is new and fresh and exciting.
As opposed to things like a brand new Targaryen princess from before there was a kingdom who married a Darkland for some reason.
Yeah, I'm a bit more suspect on Ariana Targaryen. But this bit I enjoy. I'm not like you. I mean, I didn't even clock that the first time I watched it. I'm not like you is the most like Targaryen exceptionalism, narcissism, incestuous. Like, that's the thing. He's sniffing his own farts. He actually believes that Targaryens are superior than everyone else. I think they should lean more into like the racist blood purity Valyrian supremacy thing, because that's part of this. Yeah, they think they're gods. And the fact that he says, I'm I'm better than you, I'm above you, that is part of that.
And the funny thing is, he's talking to a provenly magical witch.
Yeah, it's funny that Damon is in this profoundly vulnerable position. She is in charge of his mind right now.
Supposedly effortlessly.
Yeah. And the fact that he still is looking smug and superior is a testament to the delusionalness of that ideology.
When mere moments ago, he was like so fucked that he was pointing knives at whoever was in front of him.
Yeah. But immediately after Damon says, I'm better than you, he then goes, sits down on a rock and looks sad and then says,
Sulks
please
about
help
his
me.
wife who's angry at him.
Which is like Damon's rock sitting in the previous episode where he was all confidence, but then he's like, they defied me. I guess I'll just sit on a rock and be sad.
I don't know what to do now.
I mean, the swinging from extremes. This is a reaction that people can have to being challenged and having stress, is just swinging between despair and defiance. I feel like this is great.
Something I really hated about this episode is that it did all the analysis for us. Like, a lot of the characters are being so outright with their take on other characters. Like, Rhaenyra explicitly talking about her own approach to gender roles. Yeah. Damon saying Rhaenyra didn't want the crown, I wanted the crown.
Yeah. And also Alan and Addam like sort of laid out their feelings in a way they hadn't previously. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Like the characters just sort of say the quiet parts out loud.
And it's like, well, what are we supposed to talk about now?
And I hope that what happens is that after these revelations, the next 2 episodes will be resolution and action. Because like there's been so much introspection this season.
Yeah.
That I hope that we then get an explosion outwards and some clashes and some actual resolution. Because I have felt frustrated by how slow this season is. Like nothing that has happened in this season has been like bad or meaningless, but we have had repetition, I feel. And we have had like a lot of marinating in the same space for a long time, for a lot of episodes.
I would like a action-packed last 2 episodes, a 1-2 punch, please.
So I was having some thoughts about the pacing of this season.
Is that right?
I was. So I looked at the book. Do you know how many pages of the book, Fire and Blood, on which House of the Dragon is based? Do you know how many pages of that book were covered in House of the Dragon Season 1?
I do, because we just did it off screen together. I just cut that bit.
And what was that number?
It's around 70 pages.
About 70 pages of the book was covered in House of the Dragon Season 1.
Depending on your edition.
House of the Dragon Season 2, so far, has covered, it depends how you count it, but it's about 20 pages. So in these like 6 episodes, they've only covered 20 pages, whereas in season 1 they covered like 70 pages. Partly due to the time skips and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that's it's a much slower pace. And when you think about how much more story there is to cover,
there's like at the very least 100 more pages left.
Yeah. They could go beyond, but yeah, I think there's about 100 more pages for them to cover. Which means that they're going to need like 4 more seasons to get to the end at this current pace.
Or just to really ramp it up starting next season.
The showrunners have said that it'll be like 3 or 4 or 5 seasons are the numbers that have been floated around.
At least 4 was the latest thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like it's getting longer as opposed to shorter. But but this is just, I don't know, I just find it surprising to actually quantify it by looking at the book. This has been like a demonstrably slow season compared to season 1. And it's very slow if they're trying to cover this whole story in 4 or 5 seasons. My point is that they will have to speed up if they're going to cover this story in 4 or 5 seasons.
Well, I'd like to see that.
Maybe they shall. Maybe they shall. Alice says that people who don't want power should have power. Kind of a cliche.
Bit of a cliche there, Alice.
Yeah. I feel like that's also a little bit counter to the ideas in the book, which are that like Jon is set up as a good ruler.
Yeah.
And he does want power to some extent, not for its own sake.
Yeah.
But
like
I would
to
not
fulfill other parts of his identity.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say Book Jon like doesn't want power.
No, his lifelong ambition was to be the Lord of Winterfell.
Yeah. And like Daenerys is set up as someone who I think is meant to be a good ruler, not necessarily in the long run, not forever, but like she is set up as someone who learns how to be a good ruler, and she certainly wants to be a ruler. So I feel like in the books, like the good rulers in the books do want to be rulers, but it's not an unreasonable thing to
I don't know if
up.
you can be a good ruler if you're uninterested in ruling, like Baelor the Blessed, who appears later on in Targaryen history.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, I mean, there are Targaryen kings who did not want to be rulers, and they often were disasters for their realm. I mean, Viserys is someone who didn't really want to be a ruler, and he was kind of disastrous. So.
Robert didn't want to be a ruler.
Yeah, so I agree. I think that this story and George kind of reject the notion that, like, I don't think it embraces this notion the people who don't want power should have power, but,
Which may support the idea that Alys is just sort of wrong.
Yeah.
Like, she's pushing her own agenda here.
Yeah, I mean, Alys is not the voice of God. Alys is a character, and she has her own limitations and falsehoods, and it'll be interesting if she changes her views as she goes on.
Actually, Simon Strong as the George R.R. Martin self-insert who is the voice of God in this story.
Because he talks about the fundamental importance of peace. Alys says that power is a burden, and that certainly is something that the books explore, I reckon.
Yerp. Damon doesn't... He sort of refuses to call it help that he's asking for at first. Later on, he does say that he wants help. No, I don't want help. I want counsel. Jesus, what do you think I am?
I'm just asking you to do your duty that you owe me as a prince. Yeah, look how worried he looks. He's so worried that someone might think that he's asking for help. And Alys says basically that you need the Tullys. Because despite all of this faffing about with Blackwoods and Brackens and Freys, the Tullys are the lords paramount of the Trident. They are the great lords in the Riverlands, and they command the Riverlands.
Sort of the weather vane. Yeah, it's notable that when Robb Stark marches south, the Blackwoods and the Brackens are both on side with him, and a large part of that is that Robb is half Tully. Yeah. And Edmure is behind him, Hoster's behind him, Catelyn's behind him. Yeah. He has the full force of the Riverlands.
It takes a good leader to bring the Brackens and the Blackwoods together, and the only people who they'll follow together is House Tully.
Which is funny, because the Tullys are Lord Paramounts of the Riverlands because a Targaryen made them so.
Yeah, and one of the tensions in the Riverlands is that the Tully's army is actually smaller and weaker than the Brackens and the Blackwoods and the Freys. So it's another one of those situations where the Lords Paramount are not actually the most powerful. They're just officially the leaders. So some folks would quite like to replace them.
One Walder Frey protests.
Yeah, Damon says, I need help, which, I mean, that's huge. I mean,
crazy.
Clap for Damon. Most people figure out how to ask for help a bit earlier, but okay, middle-aged Damon realizes that he needs to admit that he needs help. And Alys says, yeah, don't worry, I'll assassinate the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. Like, it's funny that...
all you needed to do was ask.
Yeah, Alys was just saying, like, oh, the Tullys are so respectable and effective, so I'm going to go and murder their dad. Like, Alys is clearly not someone who has, like, love for the Tullys. Like, her alignment is old gods, surely. That seems to be her alignment. Do you think that Alys is being manipulated by another Greenseer? Like, do you think that Alys is just getting visions?
Does the show have time for that?
I don't think that is something they would show in Hot D. But I mean, this, like, Alys's notion of, oh, we're going to follow destiny, I think connects with the idea of the old gods messing with her head.
Right.
And what we've seen in the books is like Brynden messing with Jojen and with Bran, and like Quaithe messing with Daenerys. And like these notions of destiny, no, it's just a person who is giving you visions for their own delusional goals, you know? So maybe that's what's happening to Alys.
Who could it be? Like, who in this point of history would be up there messing with people? I think R'hllor. Like, Melisandre's visions from R'hllor, I think R'hllor is just like a guy with a dragonglass candle somewhere. I think that Leighton Hightower is R'hllor. There's your new fan theory for today. I think Leighton Hightower is R'hllor. He's just got a glass candle. He's giving Melisandre visions, causing Melisandre to do all that stuff. I'm quite the fan of that. It's actually Melora, the Mad Maid, who's R'hllor. That's why she's mad. R'hllora. Oh my God. There you go. Hodor, Melora. Exactly.
Hodor. Oh, hold the Melora. We did a theory. Also, I don't want to like bury the lead. Alys has an owl. Hell yeah, she does. Alys has an owl. I'm actually convinced that Alys was walking the owl before. I'm not going to yuck your yum on that one. And if Alys can control owls to spy, surely Larys can control rats. Yeah, and Alys did cast fuckery spells on Larys as he was being born. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that. Yeah, Jeezy Kableezy. Do you think that since Damon just got a witch to assassinate a lord for him, that he might then go to Alys and say, hey, could you also knock off Aemond and Aegon while you're at it? Quick question. I've got a bone to pick with Otto Hightower. Honestly, like, it would be worth trying. Like, if Alys is respected enough as a healer that she can tend to Grover Tully, why not have Alys go to the Red Keep and say, hey, I'm a healer. I would like to heal King Aegon, please. And then just kill all of them. Everyone dies. Yeah. Why wouldn't Damon think? Maybe he'll ask her that in the next episode. Or maybe, you know, Aemond wants to take Harrenhal. Maybe Alys will be a booby trap. I mean, look, if anyone's going to assassinate Aemond Targaryen, I think it should be Sylvie, because we've just established that Sylvie, Diana, and Ulf are working for Mysaria to spread propaganda. If Sylvie is working against the Greens for Rhaenyra, why doesn't Sylvie kill Aemond when he is vulnerable and naked in her bed?
I don't know if Sylvie wants to die as well, though. Because, like, as soon as she does that, she dies as well, right?
Does she? If she does it in her brothel that she, like, controls... When the
people
doors
would
close,
know that that's where he went.
in privacy.
Well, maybe they wouldn't know that that's where he went.
She could cut his throat while he sleeps, leave the brothel, leave the city. I guess it would be difficult to leave the city. But still, that's a very plausible way to assassinate their prime enemy, Aemond. And once Aemond is dead, Ulf can claim Vhagar.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, because we know that they're working together. We know that Ulf claims to be a Targaryen.
Balon's son, Balon, the rider of Vhagar.
Yeah, exactly. So why not? Problem solved. I think...
Well, does Aemond still go to the brothel? He might be too busy now. That's right. We hear later in this episode that the girls go to him.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm skeptical of that. I think that was made up for propaganda.
Yeah, she's making that up.
Because we also didn't see lavish feasts happening. You know, like for all of the Green's faults, and there are many flaws with Alicent and Aemond and Aegon. I mean, now that Aegon is burned, I don't think Alicent or Aemond are indulging in lavish feasts or in sex workers delivered to their door. I don't think that's happening.
The one shipment of food we see going to the Red Keep are sheep for the dragons.
Yeah, and lemons for Kristen's sword. Although I will tell you that I was thinking about like who in the Red Keep is most likely to be to have sex workers services, and I thought Jasper Ironrod is single. His last wife just died of exhaustion. I think he's bringing all of Sylvie's sex workers into the Red Keep, if anyone.
And Larys is having the feasts because he loves that pie. He's all about the eel pie.
Oh, gosh. Eel pie. I think that's one of Ironrod's moves.
Oh.
So, hard cut.
Get away from me.
Hard cut to Stefan's going to get eaten.
You're going to die?
Uh-oh. I like how the Dragonkeepers are performing like a ritual almost. Like, I love the religious undertone of this.
The scene is very moody. Yeah, the religion of it really makes you think, the dragons are gods.
Yeah.
That's the idea here. Yeah. And of course, you would think of them as gods. I mean, look at them.
Think of how this contrasts with Game of Thrones Season 8 when Daenerys is like, get on my lizard, Kit. It'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
Whee!
And then contrast that with Quentin Martell.
But contrast it with this, like there's people really feel the weight and the significance of this. This is a judge of of Stefan's soul, his worthiness being judged by the gods, of course it is deeply religious. Is man worthy of wielding the fire of the gods?
Is this a power we should even attempt to trifle with?
Yeah. Whereas in the show, it's like, let's go on a ride.
Wee! I can show you the world.
Yeah, a dragon is not a flying carpet and should be treated as better than that.
You brought up the purity of Stefan Darkland's soul here, which is interesting because we just spent several minutes talking about the falsity of the notion that, blood guides who is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that what really is the worthiness in a man is not his blood, but his choices. And
what choices have Stefan Darkland made that makes him unworthy of seasmoke?
Well,
this choice right here, attempting to claim seasmoke.
Well, no, what does Stefan want? He wants to attack the Greens because they killed his dad and burned Duskendale. Right, he wants revenge.
I think that's another reason we should have had him say that in that scene.
Yeah.
We needed to know that Stefan's motivation for this was bloodlust. And not just like serving his queen, trying to help the war effort. No, he wants to kill one man specifically, Kristen Cole.
Yeah, so I agree that it's a cool narrative and perspective to say, okay, Stefan wants revenge and that's why he's unworthy and that's why Seasmoke killed him. But, contrary, I think dragons love revenge.
Yeah.
They're dragons. And symbolically, the whole thing that dragons embody is passion, desire, violence. So I feel like dragons absolutely approve.
Yeah, true.
Of vengeance and
maybe
fire.
It depends on the dragon. I can see Caraxes being like, oh, Damon's fucked up. I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
Whereas, Seasmoke was friends with Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra wasn't I mean, he wasn't the best dude,
Yeah.
but he wasn't like debauched.
Well, yeah, Laenor was woohoo, it's a me, yay, burning people alive on the stepstones. Like, he was pretty enthusiastic about mass murder.
Yeah.
Which
So
is a
maybe
bit of a downer.
Seasmoke would be too.
But I do agree that individual dragon personality is a factor here. And Seasmoke does, I think, feel like one of the more chill dragons.
I don't know. He does terrorize a beach for no reason.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I absolutely I would. It would be so much. Do you have any idea what I would do if I were a dragon? I would be such a little knob.
So yeah, I do think that dragons like Valyrians because they are part of like the blood pact and they understand the blood pact that was made, whatever that pact was. And the fact that Darklan is not, like, he may have Targaryen blood, but that doesn't cut it. Like, I don't know, the idea of regality as well, like being king-like.
So it's more about the performance of being a Valyrian.
Yeah, I think dragons want an actual ruler, a master, as opposed to a servant. And Darklan is a sworn servant to Rhaenyra, you know?
Interesting, yeah.
They want someone who's actually free and able to exert their will, not just a tool, you know? And Stefan is not only a tool of Rhaenyra, but Stefan wants to use Seasmoke as a tool to get vengeance for his family.
Whereas Addam wants like glory for himself personally. He's been the only thing we know about Addam is that he's upset with how little he's accomplished personally.
Yeah. Dragons want ambition, and Addam has that. Although, of course, one of the other whole conversations is, does Addam have dragon blood?
Yeah.
Because Addam is the son of Corlys Velaryon, who, as far as we know, in Hot D, does not have any dragon riding blood, because the Velaryons are not a dragon riding family. Only the Targaryens are.
And Alan is shaving his white hair, but Addam has a massive head of black hair. So what's going on there?
Yeah. Do you think that it's possible that Addam and Alan have different mothers?
I do.
Because one of the other possibilities is that maybe Addam's mother was a Dragonseed.
Possibly.
That would make sense. And
I sort of love the idea that Addam has no Targaryen blood at all. And Seasmoke claims him because, like, Seasmoke finds Addam on the beach and he's like, oh, Laenor, you're back.
Just because, like,
you know, Addam, we have to remember that Addam, Alan, and Laenor are the half brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Maybe it's like the closest thing Seasmoke can find to his old rider. And of course, there's also the question of, is Laenor still alive? And, like, does the claiming of Seasmoke indicate that Laenor is dead? I mean, that's probably something they'll talk about next episode.
I would
right?
really love to hear Rhaenyra opine on that.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they don't.
And Jace, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, what will the possible death of Laenor mean to Jace?
Oh, great. My second dad is dead now.
Yeah, jeez.
Now all I have is Damon.
Oh, boy.
Now Rhaenyra's becoming a dad as well.
I think it's really funny that Seasmoke, like, bows to Stefan.
Hop on.
Maybe Seasmoke is actually bowing to, like, Rhaenyra at this point.
Maybe. Or the Dragonkeepers.
But
Why can't the Dragonkeepers claim dragons, just by the way? What's up with that?
That's a great question. Like, my headcanon is that these Dragonkeepers may
'cause they're
descend
servants.
from Valyrians.
Yeah. They only speak Valyrian, supposedly.
Yeah. So, but if they are from Valyria, then maybe they could more plausibly have dragon blood.
But maybe it ties into what you were talking about earlier, in that they are servants. They are sworn to this order. They're sworn to Dragonstone or Rhaenyra or whatever. It's unclear. We haven't heard specifically. But yeah, they seem to be not, you know, agents unto themselves.
Yeah, they are not regal. They do not use their own power. They are a humble monastic order. They are shaven heads and they are robes covered in what I choose to believe is dragon dung. They have daggers with which to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Like, they are humble. And I think that's why the dragons don't ride them.
It is no coincidence that Daenerys' dragons hatch the moment that she takes things into her own hands.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it's about, the dragons. Like, the dragons respect desire and ambition, and they do not respect servility.
Maybe that's why Vhagar liked Aemond.
Yeah. And
She saw all of this in him.
yeah. And I mean, there has never been a dragon rider who was a wuss. Put it that way. Everyone in the lore who has a dragon is into it. I mean, Viserys is an interesting wrinkle. in that.
It's interesting that Velaryon was like, oh, yeah, you can... Sure.
I think
I'm too old to say no.
I think it's low-key one of the most sort of fascinating mysteries is what was Viserys' relationship with Velaryon. Anyway, so Stefan, like, to me, it's very funny how Stefan, like, tiptoes towards Seasmoke as though Seasmoke can't see what he's doing.
Scrubbing through that at like 4 times speed is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's meme potential in that. I also like his, like, the heels on his boots are enormous as well. So yeah, this is quite funny. But then Seasmoke's like,
gotcha.
Jokes.
Lamau, psych.
Jokes. Why does Seasmoke do it like that? For dramatic tension? So yeah, Seasmoke.
He's a cheeky guy.
He kills Stefan. It was a prank, bro. He burns him. Oh my god.
That is so metal.
The Dragonkeeper slits his own throat.
With the dagger he crafted for the specific purpose of killing himself if a dragon immolates him.
Oh my gosh. Is that even possible? Is it possible to cut your own throat like that?
Isn't there a mechanism in the human brain to stop you from doing that?
Yeah, especially so slowly. I mean, God, I don't know.
Performatively.
His ear's already gone. Oh boy, I don't want to think about it.
I don't know if I'd have the wherewithal while I'm being burned by a dragon to slit my own throat.
Couldn't Seasmoke at least have the good grace to eat these people so they don't have to burn alive slowly?
They're beneath him.
Oh boy. So yeah, it turns out the gambit of trying to get Stefan to claim a dragon doesn't pay off.
Yeah.
Who else they got?
Rhaenyra later on says, like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
that a dragon would, like, see fit to be ridden by a fucking dark one.
Yeah, I like Rhaenyra's reaction because, like, the conversation last episode, she was like, no, but dragons only ride Targaryens. And Jace is like, but what if they don't, mum? And Rhaenyra's like, okay, I'll try what my teenager suggested. And now a man is dead. And of course, Rhaenyra's like, well, everyone has always told me that only Targaryens ride dragons. So this does seem to have been a very silly thing for me to have done. Yeah.
They've done the scientific method.
This is science.
They need to do a few more tests.
This is dragon science. We got to get those p-values up. So I don't know how many more people we're going to need to burn before we know. But that's just science.
I mean, why slap Bartimos Celtigar when you can just give him the next shot? He actually does have Valyrian blood. And not in a made-up fanfic sort of way.
It'd be really funny if Rhaenyra, like, reconsults the Darkland family tree and goes, oh, that was a typo.
There were no princesses back then. What was I?
Oops, I misread that one.
I'm going to need to commission some art of Ariana Targaryen.
Yes.
The princess from before the kingdom.
Yes.
The princess who never was.
I choose to believe that Ariana had, like, a black streak in her hair, and she also had a robot arm.
That's so cool.
Someone draw that,
she had a Valyrian
please.
steel robot arm.
Yes, she did. And she had superpowers.
Like Henry Fondle in BoJack Horseman. That was the most out-of-pocket reference you've ever made, I think.
We've referenced BoJack on this before.
Yeah.
Whose mind does not immediately go to Henry Fondle?
Henry Fondle.
So here's Addam fondling some rope.
The sea snake, the ship, is now completely barnacle-free.
It's
now in sailing condition.
This is my favorite subplot of this season. Corlys' ship slowly becoming less barnacled with each passing episode.
I've never worked in a shipyard. How long does it take to remove barnacles from a hull?
There's a lot of barnacles out there.
I wish we'd seen, like, more specifically the state of the ship to sort of justify how long it's been sitting here.
Barnacle watch. So they expect that Lannister or Greyjoy ships might be a problem attacking the Velaryon fleet.
Bit of dramatic irony here in that we, the audience, know Aemond is trying to get the Triarchy on board, and that doesn't occur to Corlys.
Yeah, well, I wonder, yeah. I mean, Corlys defeated the Triarchy in, like, episode 8 or whatever, but he must be aware that they still exist in the East. So Corlys says, hey, I'm not going to call you son, but buddy. Hey, pal.
Guy.
You want to work with me? Which is, you know, it's like if a billionaire comes and says, hey, want to be my intern? And Alan is like, do I have to?
I would rather continue flying under the radar.
I love how this is House of the Dragon has found a new way to have an extremely strained father-son relationship. This is a heretofore unplumbed level of discomfort between father and son that has not yet happened before.
Like they don't hate each other. They don't love each other. They're just sort of awkward.
Yeah, they're just sort of awkward.
They don't want to deal with it.
And Alan feels hurt that he hasn't been acknowledged. And I think the vibe is like, if you're going to accept me, call me son.
Yeah. You can't just like
play catch with me, but don't ask me to be your intern if you're not going to acknowledge me.
This is weird, Dad.
I love that. I love the body, like the whole performance by Abubakar here. He looks so uncomfortable and it's so real. And I think it's great. I do think it's funny how old he is, though. Like in the books, Alan and Addam are like 16 or something.
Yeah. Like
16 and 14. Whereas here, it's like a grown-ass man acting like a sheepish kid.
Yeah, like, is he older than Rhaenyra?
He looks like he might be.
That's interesting.
In the books...
When did this happen?
I think it's not a spoiler to say this. In the books, it is claimed that Rhaenyra is the father of Addam and Alan, which can't possibly be true in Hot D with their ages, can it?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah. So, yeah, Corlys insists, Alan, you're going to be my right-hand man. And I think that clearly Corlys is thinking, this guy might be my heir. This guy is Salton Sea, like Baylor said. Yeah. He's Salton Sea. He may be worthy as the potential Lord of Driftmark after me.
Jace is going to be the king. Luke's dead. Joffrey's a baby. Baylor doesn't want to be... She's going to be the queen and she doesn't want Driftmark. I might have another granddaughter, but I'm not really going to think about that.
What's her name again? Starts with an R.
Rhaenyra. No, that's the other one.
Rhubarb.
Arianne Targaryen.
Yeah,
she married Darkland.
He actually can't call Rhaenyra because he can't remember what her name is in his phone.
He's fucked up.
He's got a contact for Baylor, then he's got a contact for the other one.
Baylor's sister. I like Alan's headscarf there, hiding his spiky white hairs that he shaves off later.
You're right. The reason he's wearing that thing on his head is because he needs to shave because there's white stubble on his head.
And like, imagine, he's talking to Corlys here. Imagine if he wasn't wearing that and you can see the white stubble on his head and you're a shipmate and you say, oh my God, this motherfucker.
I mean, it's really funny that like Alan's like, I wouldn't want them to think that we live in a nepotistic world. It's like, mate, this is feudalism. This is monarchy. This is nepotism. That's the system. But he's sheepish about it.
Well, maybe the Navy just works differently to that.
It's so much
maybe
like
Corlys Velaryon's Navy is actually a little bit meritocratic.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the Ironborn are a bit more meritocratic. On the Ironborn ships, every captain is a king. I
can't believe I'm going to say this, but in defense of the Ironborn, what were you saying about Jon Snow?
Well, there's just a huge amount of Jon Snow energy here, like just the sort of resentment and like love and
Alan doesn't want it.
I don't want it energy. Yeah, it's huge.
Addam wants it.
Yeah. And Addam and Alan parallel Baylor and Rhaenyra in that, like, Addam feels neglected and resentful like Rhaenyra does.
And Alan actively rejects advancement.
Yeah.
Like Baylor did last episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, is it really an advancement being made the heir to Driftmark over being queen?
Yeah, it is hilarious how Corlys just ignored that. So, yeah. Big step up for Alan. Does he want it, though? What will this lead to? Let's find out. Hey, look, it's Diana.
Hey, look, it's Ulf. Hey, look, it's Sylvie. Oh my God, minor character overload. All right, end of the line, bucko. The rest of the things on Nebula. So go there if you want. As promised, I will keep the conclusion here so you know our general thoughts on the episode. All right, thanks for tuning in. Bye, love you. So that was episode 6?
That was episode 6 of House of the Dragon.
That was episode 6 of Dragon Time.
Did you think it was a good episode of House of the Dragon?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. There's some, every episode has some, like, what was that things.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. Lots of fun things are happening. Lots of great conversations, character work. Damon's visions are still probably the best part of the show.
Yeah. There were unexpected, fun surprises.
Paddy.
There was Paddy.
Paddy's back.
There was an owl.
There was an owl. There was a dragon chase in this episode. Seasmoke went poof on screen. It was fantastic. I love that.
I do feel a
Cheese
bit
dog.
frustrated by the slow pace. I feel like there's been a lot of characters saying, boy, I wish I was doing something. And I also was thinking, boy, I also wish you were doing something. But there has continued to be a lot of just really gorgeous scenes and relationship. I mean, Gwaine and Alicent was so much fun. And I mean, Larys opening up was so much fun.
Yeah. And it's not like nothing happened in this episode, right?
Stefan being burned was
that's
fun.
great fun.
In the books, Stefan is burned by seasmoke, but it doesn't mention that Stefan has Targaryen blood, which makes it even funnier in the book.
Yeah, like, hang on, why did we do this?
Yeah.
Like I got the impression in the book that he was just like doing the brave, valiant knight thing. I shall claim a dragon for my queen.
Yeah.
And then immolating.
So yeah, no, I enjoyed the episode. I'm very curious to see what happens next. It is going off the books a bit more, I think, than most of House of the Dragon has prior.
Yeah, I think we are at a like new level of different canonicity.
Yeah, and it's been fun. Thanks for dragon timing.
Thanks for doing a dragon time with me.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.
See you next time on Dragon.